Okay. Today we are starting with today we are starting with decision making in C. Okay. I'll give you the notes in the evening. Okay. I'll give you the proper notes. Uh, I'll just explain it from here directly for today's class. Okay, so we have already discussed about the three different types of controls while discussing algorithms. If you all remember, we discussed about sequential control, then conditional control, and iteration or repetition. Yes, so we have successfully covered the first. Okay, we have learned how to code sequential control programs in C. Sequential control is where you write all the instructions in a sequence, and all the instructions will be executed in that particular sequence only. Yes, so if you write say 5 lines one after the other, so all the instructions will be executed in that sequence only. Okay, it is executed in the sequence or in the order in which it is written. That's it. There is no transfer of control from one part to another part. There is no jumping. But when we talk about transferring control from one part or to the another, or when we talk about conditions, okay, then we come to the second category of statements or control, that is the decision making in C. Okay, decision making or the control statements. So here basically what we do is we basically deal with conditions here. Okay, so here we will have to go through certain conditions. There will be some conditions. Okay, so based on that condition we have to make decisions. That is why these conditional statements are also known as decision making statements. Okay, it is the same in C or in C++, but since now we are talking only about C, so let's stick to C only. So decision making is when you encounter certain conditions in your problem, okay, and you have to decide which part to execute and which part to ignore. Okay, based on that condition, you have to make some decisions. So that is what decision making statements or control conditional statements in C. Okay, so now you see it's given already. There are some situations in real life when we need to make some decisions based on these decisions we decide what should we do next. Similar situations arise in programming also, where we need to make some decisions, and based on these decisions we will execute the next block of code. For example, in C, if X occurs, then execute Y, else execute Z. There can be also multiple conditions, like in C, if X occurs, then execute P, else if condition Y occurs, then execute Q, else execute R. So this condition of C, else if, is one of the many ways of importing multiple conditions. So see, there are different types of decision making statements. Okay, first you have to know about that. So to broadly categorize, we have two types. Okay, one is the if else and the other is the switch statement. Okay, so in broadly we can categorize the decision making statements into two types. One is the if else statement and the other is the switch statement. So we will cover the switch statement at the very end. Okay, so we will first go through the if else statements only. Talking about the if else statements, here we have four different types. Okay, talking about the if else statements can be further divided down into four different types. First is the if. Okay, first is the only if statement. We don't have the else part. That means what? You have a condition, and if the condition is true, okay, if the condition is true, then whatever is there inside, that will get executed. But if the condition is false, you do not have any part for that. Okay, so here we do not have the else part. Say for example, I tell you that roll numbers 1 to 10, if your roll numbers are between 1 to 10, you will have your exam today, and from roll numbers 11 to 20, okay, you have your exams tomorrow. So if I am to tell this using if else, using the if condition, what will I say is, if your roll number is between 1 to 10, then your exam is today. Okay, but here I will not mention about the rest of the roll numbers which do not lie between 1 to 10. That means all the other roll numbers from 11. Okay, I will not tell about them. So here I will only check for the true condition. So only if the condition is true, as you can see from the diagram here, if condition, so only if the condition is true, whatever is there inside the true block, that will be executed. But if the condition is found to be false, there is nothing else for that part. Okay, for the condition to be false, we don't have any other code here. So if only if the condition is true, then the body will be executed accordingly. Okay, so that is the function of if. In if else, we have both. That means you have a condition. If the condition is true, then based on that, whatever is there inside will get executed. But if the condition is found to be false, then whatever is there in the else part, okay, whatever is there in the alternative part, that section will be executed. So here we have alternatives, okay, if else. Next, see, this is the diagram. So for if, you have only one condition. So provided the condition is true, whatever is there, the block will be executed, else nothing else will be executed. Okay, here we have the else part also. That means you don't, there will be two parts, okay, in the if else statement. One is for the if the condition is true, okay, and the next part is if the condition is found to be false. Okay, if the condition is found to be false, then the else part will be executed. Okay, then we have if else if. So this is if else if, so you can call it as the if else ladder. Okay, you can call it as the if else ladder. If else ladder means you have if condition, so there will be multiple conditions. Okay, so if condition 1, then this will be executed. If this condition is found to be false, then you check the other condition, next condition. Else if another condition, again you check for the condition. So if this condition is true, the true block will be executed. Again, if this condition is found to be false, then you go to the else part. Okay, so depending on that, it is just like a ladder. So we will start from the very top of the ladder. Okay, and based on the condition, we will go on checking the condition, and wherever we find the condition to be true, that particular block will be executed. Otherwise, we will come down the ladder one by one, checking the condition. So we will go through examples for each of these different statements. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. We will go through, I will explain each of these statements using examples one by one. Next, we have nested if. Nested if means when you have an if else statement inside the if part or the else part. So for example, you have this if else statement here. Okay, you have this if else statement here, you have the if statement here and the else part here. Okay, now if you insert another if else statement inside this if, okay, inside this if you insert another if else statement like this, if you, okay, so here you see you have the if statement here, okay, and this is the else part. So you have two parts mainly, one is the if part and next is the else part. So suppose your you will first start from the top. Okay, you start from the first condition. If you find this condition to be true, just like in here, you come inside the block. Okay, so once you come inside, whatever is there, that should execute, right? Just like this. So here you had a block, true block. Block means there will be some statements, some number of statements will be there. That entire the entire group, we call that as a block. Okay, so the group of statements will be executed, okay, in that block, in the true block. Now here inside the true block, what do we have? We have another if else statement. So inside this if part, we have another if else statement. So once this condition is satisfied, you come inside, then you encounter another if else statement, you encounter another condition here. Now you will have to check this condition. So only if this condition is true, then whatever is there inside this particular block, that will be executed, else the other part will be executed. Okay, and if the first condition itself is wrong, if it is false, okay, the first initial condition is found to be false, then you will never get inside. So what will you do? Just like here, since the first condition is false, that means you have to come to the else part. Now you come to the else part. Again, if you enter the else part, what do you have? You have another if else condition. So now here also, again, just like in here also you will have to check for condition. So if the condition is found to be true, then you get inside this block and you execute the statements. And if this is false, then you come to the else part and you execute the statement. So this is nested if else. Nested if else means when you have an if else statement inside another if else statement, that is called nested if else. Okay, and finally we have switch. So switch is just a replacement of the if else statement. Okay, when we have too many conditions, okay, we are talking about checking conditions here, and based on that, those conditions, we make some decisions. Now if we have too many conditions, say 20 conditions, 30 conditions, in such cases using if else statement would not be feasible enough. Okay, would not be feasible enough, that would not be a good idea. Okay, so in such cases, we go for switch statement. So this is just an alternative for if else. Okay, just to overcome the disadvantages of if else statement, we use switch statement. So this is that statement that we will be learning at the end. First, we will go through all the if else statements one by one. Okay. See, we first start with the if statement. So these are the various statements. Okay, these are the various decision making statements. In here, in decision making, we will also learn about some jump statements. Okay, such as the break, continue, go to, and return. You have already learned return. We have already learned the return statement. We have seen how return statement works. But anyways, we will look into all of these one by one. Okay, in this new topic. Okay, so starting with the first if else statement, which is a simple if statement. Okay, just hold on. Is it clear till here, whatever I explained? Have you got a bit of idea about why we are using the decision making statements, or what is the basic purpose? Is it clear? We'll go through each one by one, but just before that, at least have you got the basic idea about the decision making statements? We have already done it in algorithms and flowchart. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. See, we will start with the if statement first. Okay. So as I said, we will not go through this. Okay. See, okay. If statement is the most simple decision making statement. It is used to decide whether a certain statement or block of statements will be executed or not. That is, if a certain condition is true, then the block is executed. Otherwise, it is not executed. So here, basically, we will just check for the truth of the condition. Okay, here we will just check for the validity or truth of the condition. So only if the condition is found to be true, you get inside the block, and whatever is there inside this block, all the statements will be executed. So it is already written, statements to execute if the condition is found to be true. Okay, but if the condition is false, then you don't have any other part for that. Okay, so this is a very simple if statement. See, this is the syntax. Okay, and we have this. So if condition, then you get inside the block. That means if the condition is true, you get inside the block. First statement 1 will be executed, then statement 2 will be executed, and so on. Okay, so this is the flow chart for the if statement. Okay, this is a simple flow chart for the if statement. If you can see, you start. Okay, so if condition, so as if you remember, we used to place the condition inside the diamond shaped box. So this is a diamond where you are placing the condition. So if the condition is found to be true, okay, I'm just enlarging the image so that you can have a better view. Okay, anyways, see, it's having some problems, so let me just show it this way. Okay, so if the condition is found to be true, okay, then you come down, and if it is found to be false, then you directly follow the other way and go to exit. That means the program will stop there. Okay, so if the condition is true, only then you come to the next part, which is the if which is the body, okay, which is the block or body of the if statement, so that whatever instructions are written inside that block, that will be executed. And then you come down. So what do we have here? Statements just below the if statement. So if there are, any other statements in your program other than the if else statement, okay, followed, if you have any other statements in your program apart from the if else statement, okay, then those statements will be executed, otherwise it will simply exit. So only if, so what do you see here? Only if the condition is found to be true, your body will be executed, your if body will be executed, else it will simply exit. Okay, so that is the basic working procedure of the if statement. Here we have one example in C. Okay, see, int main, then what do we have? Int I equal to 10. Okay, so here we have a variable I whose value is 10. Then what are we doing? We are simply checking for a condition that if I is greater than 15, okay, if I is greater than 15, so if this condition is true, then you will get inside the block. And what will you, what do we have here? We only have a simple printf statement. So we have a printf statement which will simply display 10 is less than 15. Okay, so here see, we have taken I to be 10. So of course here the condition is, see, look at here. Now you check the condition. Is I greater than 15? So what is the value of I? 10. Okay, so is 10 greater than 15? If this condition is true, then you will get inside, and whatever is there inside the printf statement will get executed. But problem is this condition is not true. 10 is not greater than 15. Okay, so since this condition is not true, so what do we do now? We don't have any else part for it. If you see, okay, we don't have any else part. So only if this had this condition been true, then only you could have executed this part. And we do not have any else part for it. So we will simply exit this if statement. So now we are done with the if statement because there is no statement block for the false condition. Okay, there is a single statement block for the true condition only. So you exit this if statement. Next, what do we have? We have some other instructions in the program. Okay, apart from the if statement, what do we have? It will simply print I am not in if. Okay, I am not in if. That means this is the statement that will get executed. Okay, have you understood the problem? See here, we have another example. Okay, this is also one example for if statement. You have the main function here. Then what do you have? See, inside the main function we have some statements, starting with the first int num1, then you have int num2. So these are two variables, num1 and num2 of integer type, and we have initialized these variables with two values. The first variable has been initialized to 1 and the second has been initialized to 2. So num1 contains 1 and num2 contains 2. Fine. Next, what we will do is we will simply do a comparison now. So if you remember, we have learned some operators, yes, in the previous chapter. So what, where those various operators, 6 to 7 operators, but however, one basic operator that we learned to use, okay, while doing comparisons was what? Relational operator. If you all remember, relational operators are those operators which are used for comparisons. Relational operators are like the equal, not equal, greater than, less than, greater than equal, or less than equal. So these were some relational operators that we went through in the previous topic, in the previous chapter module. Yes, so here conditions always make use of relational operators. Okay, you all know that. Just forget about programming. You all know that whenever we talk about conditions, so there we always talk about relational operators. So we will compare, we will do some comparison. And how do we compare values? By using relational operators, by using equal, not equal, greater, less, greater than equal, or less than equal. So these are the relational operators that we will be making use of in conditions, okay, for decision making statements. So as I said, we have two variables here, num1 and num2. Both one contains 1 and the second variable contains 2. Now we have the if condition here, num1 less than num2. So this is just an if condition. Okay. So you have to check. Now what was num1? It was 1 and this was 2. So is 1 less than 2? If this condition is true, then you get inside the statement block. Okay. And if this condition is false, then you will have to exit this if statement. Okay. And then whatever other statements you have in your program, they will be executed, else the program will terminate. Now in our case, we do not have any other instruction after the if statement. We simply have a return 0 statement, which means our program will terminate if we come out of the if statement. Okay. Now since we are doing a comparison between num1 and num2, so 1 is less than 2. This condition is true. So therefore you get inside, and what do we have here? We have a printf statement which will simply print num1 is smaller than num2. So this statement will get executed. Okay. Now you exit the if statement. So your entire if statement was executed successfully because initially the condition was found to be true. That is why you came inside the block and whatever was there inside the block got executed. And since we do not have anything else to execute, so we come out of the if statement now successfully. And what do we have in the next part? We just have the return 0 statement. So it will simply terminate the program execution. Okay. So this is how the if statement works. Okay. So I have shown you two examples of if statement. Again, you have here one. Okay. So we have some more. Let us just go through them one by one. These are very basic examples. See, int x equal to 41. Okay. So this is another program, int x equal to 41. So you have an integer variable x whose value is 41. In the next statement, what do we have? X equal to x plus 1. So what are we doing in the next statement? We will simply increment the value of x by 1. Okay. And update it. Fine. So initially, what was the value of x? It was 41. Now when you will, this is a simple assignment statement. Yes. So whatever is there in the right side, you have to evaluate that expression, and the answer that you get, that will be assigned to the left side variable. So first we will deal with the right side expression. Okay. So x plus 1, x is 41. What is 41 plus 1? It is 42. Fine. So the 42 value will be assigned to x, and therefore my x is what now? The updated value of x is 42 now and not 41. Okay. Now here, what do we have in the next statement? We have a condition here. So if x equal to 42, so this is the equality operator, if you all remember. Yes. So just have a look at this too. This is the equality operator. That means this is a relational operator where we will compare the values for equality. Okay. Whether or not the left value is equal to the right value. And in here, this is an assignment statement. That means whatever is there in the right side will be assigned to the left side variable. Fine. So here we incremented the value of x by 1. So we got x to be 42 here. Now we will check the condition. Is x equal to 42? Yes, because the value of x is 42 only. So 42 is equal to 42. The answer is true. Condition is true. So you get inside the block. And what do we have inside the block? A simple printf statement which will simply display you succeed. Okay. And therefore you terminate the program execution because we don't have any other statements here. Okay, other than the if statement. So this is the output that you will get if you execute this particular code. Okay, in the editor. Next, again you see int present equal to 1. Okay, here we have a statement. Keep in mind that a condition that evaluates to a non-zero value is considered as true. Okay, so please remember that when you get the see here we are evaluating the conditions. Okay, so the condition will be either true or false. Okay, so for false we have 0 and for true we have non-zero value. So basically we consider 1 for true. Okay, so basically for false we consider 0 and for true we consider 1. But however, sometimes if you ever encounter any value, any non-zero value, then keep in mind that those are nothing but those all means true. Only if your condition gives you a 0, that will be false. But if you get any non-zero value starting from 1, that means your condition is true. So that is what has been said here. Okay. Now you see, int present equal to 1. Okay, so here we have a variable present whose value is 1. If present means, see, this means that if the value is equal to 1, that means if it is true. Okay, so you can also write conditions like this. If present, that means if the value of present is 1, that means it is true. Then what will happen is you get inside and whatever is there will get displayed. So there is someone present in the classroom, so this statement will get displayed. Okay, even if you give here a 2 or a 3, it is the same thing. So here it's given that apart from 0, if you place 0 here, if you place a 0 here, it will simply mean that there are no students. That means this condition is false. So apart from 0, if you give any other value, that will be considered as true. Okay, that will make the condition true, and therefore whatever is there inside will get displayed. Okay, so this is the output. Is if statement clear to all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Respond. There are only 2 to 3 students who respond. The rest always keeps quiet. There are so many students. 18 students are there. Is it clear? If the if statement clear to all?
Yes, ma'am. It's clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next, we talk about the if-else statement. Okay. I will give you by evening. I will give you the notes. Okay, till whatever whichever topic we cover today, I'll give you the notes, and also I'll give you the programs. Fine, I'll give you the programs so that you can practice it during your puja vacations. And I might also give you some assignment. Okay, for this duration so that you can practice it. Okay. Next, we have the if-else statement. Okay, so this is one diagram for if-else statement. See, you start with the flow chart. Okay, then you have a condition here. Okay, now based on the condition, if the condition is found to be true, you follow this path, and if the condition is found to be false, you follow the other path. Okay, so let us consider that the condition is found to be true, then you will have to follow this path. So it is either this or this, you cannot follow both. Okay, so the transfer will be taking only one path, only one way. So this is how the values will get transferred. So if the condition is found to be true, you follow this path, and what do you have here? You have a block of statements for the true block. Okay, so if the condition is true, you have certain statements that you will have to execute, and after that you exit the if statement. Now if the condition is found to be false, then you will be following this path. Okay, and then in that segment, in that false part, there will also be some statements, just unlike the if statement, where what did we see? We had only the statements for the true block. Yes, we had statements only for the true block. We did not have statements for false block. Here we will have statements for false block also. Okay, just as you can see here, we can have statements for false block also. That is why else. This is if else. So here we have statements for else block also, and that you will have to display, and then you exit the statement. Fine. So this is how the syntax looks like. Okay, this is how you write if else statement, the general format. Syntax means general format. Okay, general way of writing the if else statement. So see, if test expression, that means if the condition. Okay, so if the condition is true, then you get inside the true block and execute the statements there. And if the condition is false, then you will simply skip. You have to skip this block and you come to the other else part. Okay, so if this condition is false, you cannot get inside this true block, then you will have to come to the else block. So the else block is for the false condition. Okay, so the first block is always the true, second is always the false. It actually depends on your condition, how you are using it. Okay, so if your condition is found to be true, this is for true block. If it is false, then you come to the else block, you execute the statements, and then you exit the if statement. That is it. Okay, now we will directly look into a program. See here. See, we have a variable num which contains 19. Okay, it contains a value 19. Then we have a condition here. We have an if statement here. If num is less than 10. Okay, so if num is less than 10, so what is num? Num is 19. So is 19 less than 10? No, 19 is not less than 10. So this condition is false. So since this condition is false, you cannot get inside this block. Okay, therefore you will skip this block and you come to the else part. So this else part is for 19 not less than 10. Okay, that means 19 greater than 10. So this condition was 19 less than 10. So since 19 is not less than 10, that means what? 19 is greater than 10. So the else part will be chosen for execution. You get inside, you have one statement, okay, that is to be displayed on the monitor. Accordingly, you display that statement, okay, the value is greater than 10, and then you exit the if statement. And after that, you don't have any other statements in your main function except for the return statement. Therefore, your program will terminate successfully. Okay. Here also we have another program. See, it's the same thing. It's just like the previous example. Here we have taken a variable I to be 20. Okay, then we will check for condition. The condition is given as is I less than 15. So is 20 less than 15? If the condition was true, then you would have entered the first block and you would have executed those statements only. Now, since this condition is false, so you come to the else block and whatever is there inside will get executed. Okay. So we have I is greater than 15. So this second printf statement will get executed. Okay. So here we have the output. I is greater than 15. Fine. Buji paisa? Let me just show you.
Yes, ma'am.
Another
Yes, ma'am.
or if else.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wait. Suppose you are to find the smallest of two numbers. Okay. So for that, it will be the same thing. Hash include dot h. So int a comma b. Okay, your string. Enter the values for a and b. So I'm giving user inputs here. Okay, I'm not directly initializing the values at the beginning. I'm giving user inputs. Okay, so %d. Now we will check for the condition. So if a is less than b, okay, printf a is smaller. Else printf b is